I will call to order the October 3rd meeting of the Verona Plan Commission. We'll begin with the roll call. Mr. Sarah, if you would, please.
Commissioner Manley.
Here.
Alderperson Linder.
Here.
Commissioner Turk.
Here.
Mayor Holcomer.
Here.
And the left side of the table is absent and excused, and that includes Commissioner Horsfall, Heinzen, and Lytle.
We do have a quorum, so we will proceed with the meeting. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, and those minutes were included with your packet. What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Linder. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Turk. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Mr. Manley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't able to attend the meeting, so I don't know for sure if on one of the items that I want to bring up, if a change is necessary, but there were two things I noticed at the top of page 3, which discusses a motion and a vote to recommend to the council approval of a conditional use permit for E3 coaching. We didn't have a vote reflected.
The outcome of the vote, you mean?
What's that?
The outcome of the
Yeah.
vote?
And then also on page 3, the hours of operation for the commercial space at 142 Paoli Street says 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I'm guessing that that's supposed to be 10 p.m.
Mr. Sarah, would you agree?
I would agree with that. We'll get that change made.
That's all I had.
Thanks.
Scott, if you wouldn't mind, do you want to make the motion to amend the
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Linder to amend the minutes to reflect the items that Mr. Manley suggested. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. So we have amended the motion. Let's go back to the main motion. All those in favor of approval of the motion or of the minutes as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that carries. The minutes are amended. Thank you very much, Mr. Manley, for that. Next, we have agenda item number 4, which is discussion and possible action regarding site plan review to allow for a parking lot expansion at 958 Liberty Drive. This would be action by Plan Commission if we were to take action this evening. Mr. Sarah, if you would provide the background, please.
Thank you. The applicant's requesting approval to construct a parking lot expansion within Liberty Business Park. The property in question is highlighted in yellow on your screen. It's located at the northwest corner of Liberty Drive and County Highway M. The plan in front of you right now is the site plan that was approved initially with this project. In August of 2016, the city did approve a conditional use permit for a restaurant that would be located on the western side of the building. They still plan on opening here in late November. But I believe when that came forward, the gentleman who will be managing the restaurant indicated at the Plan Commission meeting or the council meeting that as part of his lease, it was required that additional parking should be provided on the property for him and a potential future additional restaurant in the building. So the request tonight is for that expansion. The applicant is proposing 68 additional parking spaces. The additional parking would be located west of the previously planned parking on the site. The proposed parking does conform to all the requirements. One item to note that I had in my staff report was an issue with one of the setbacks on the parking lot. Between the time the packets went out and tonight's meeting, the applicant has revised the site plan, and the parking lot now does conform to all the required setbacks by the zoning ordinance. The applicant is proposing additional bioretention pond on the property located north of the actual lot itself. A stormwater management plan has been submitted to the city engineer for review, and staff has no concerns with that. Our revised landscaping plan was also included in your Plan Commission packet. The proposed plan meets the minimum point requirements, and staff has no concerns with the landscaping. And the applicant has also provided a revised photometric plan to staff for review, and it does conform to the zoning ordinance requirements. As part of the project, they will be relocating 2 existing light poles on the property and placing them within the landscaping islands. So that staff recommends the Plan Commission approve the parking lot expansion at 958 Liberty Drive. And this would just be an approval by the Plan Commission. I know the applicant is here tonight, and he'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. Questions, comments, potential motions? I keep looking to my left, and there's no commissioners there. This makes it easy. Questions, comments, potential action? Mr. Linder, please.
Yeah, I got a question. So there's no connection currently to on the west side of this, to the property there. Is that ever gonna make a connection there?
Mr. Sayre?
Yes, the intent is to have that connection made at some point. Currently, west of us, there's nothing.
Right.
So there's currently this existing drive that connects into, I think it's Fortune. I could be wrong, but the street that's next to the hotel, where this kind of connects into that roadway, that's where the street stops. So there's no streets to the west, and there's nothing else to the west as well. But yes, the intent is similar to the other projects that this will connect in some fashion, whether it be by parking, whether it be by access. I think they do have the potential in this location here to put a drive in,
Okay.
but it'll depend on what happens to the west.
And then, so how would you get into this property right now? Because is there cutouts for that entrance on the east side? Yeah, right there.
Yep, that is a right in, right out, and then we have a full access point coming
So they
to
gotta
the
go
north.
up the Fortune, back down if they're coming from,
Yes,
yes. From that.
correct. Long-term, Liberty Drive will be extended to Whalen Road, but for the time being, it's not extended, obviously.
And, okay. And then just one last thing, this is the Lineage Restaurant, is that what it's called? Is that what?
That was the name at the time. I think the name has changed, but it's the same one, yes.
What's the new name?
I think it's the Woods of Verona. I believe we had it in the Verona Progress. I forget exactly what it was, but it's in the Verona Progress.
Verona Woods?
That's Verona Woods, yes.
Okay.
Questions, comments? I look to the left again. Questions, comments, potential motions? Mr. Manley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve the site plan. And there's no need for the contingency
Correct.
based on the information that you now have.
It's been
Okay.
resolved, yes.
So we have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Turk. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. We are now on agenda item number 5, which we're not asking for any action this evening, but Mr. Sayre, if you would provide the background, please.
Thank you. This is an initial review for the Verona Area School District to construct a parking lot that will be located south of the softball fields that are located at 710 Lone Pine. Verona Area School District is requesting initial review to construct 60 parking stalls just south of the softball fields. On the screen right now is the air photo, and highlighted is the Country View Elementary School. The softball fields are located in this location here. Zooming out a larger view of it, the applicant has provided this. The red area is where the parking lot and the improvements would be located. The yellow is the recently approved Kettle Creek North plat. Phase 1 of that plat would be located east of where this parking lot would be constructed. The intent by the applicant is to kind of coordinate these improvements with the subdivision that would be occurring. So potentially taking advantage of some of the staging of the construction equipment with that project and kind of building this concurrently or immediately after the roads are constructed within the subdivision. The parking lot itself, as I said, would be located south of the softball fields. As part of this, they would also be regrading an existing soccer and lacrosse field that's currently located on the property. That would be shifted to the south and regraded as part of the project. The applicant is also proposing a small stormwater pond as well, which would accommodate stormwater for the stalls. The 60 stalls would have space for regular vehicles and also handicapped vehicles, and also would provide also bus drop-off. The bus drop-off would be located along the fields here. Drainage and stormwater details would be worked out in the future. The parking lot itself would be located a minimum of 150 feet from the nearest home on Hemlock Drive, and also on over to the east on Shandy Road. Staff has no concerns with the proposed parking lot location. Landscaping will be an important component of this project. As the project moves forward, the applicant will be developing a full landscaping plan. Staff recommends significant amounts of landscaping along the property line to the southeast to screen the parking lot from the home here on the corner here, and also to screen any headlights from the future houses to the east as well. As part of this, the applicant is not proposing any parking lot lights. If the project moves forward, staff will recommend a condition that will prohibit future lights from being installed in the parking lot and also on the softball fields. I think the lights have the potential to create glare issues, and just obviously at night, being so close to a residential area, there would be some issues with that. One comment that staff did have on the proposed net, we recommend that it would be taken to the kind of the pole in the far right field, just to fully protect the actual roadway from any potential flying balls that would fly out of here. But in general, staff is overall comfortable with how this has turned out. I know the applicant is here tonight. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, along with the engineer as well is here too. So with that, staff recommends the Plan Commission review the submitted materials and provide feedback to the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. Questions, comments, any additional feedback? Mr. Manley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my initial feedback is positive. For, I guess it was 13 years, I lived at the corner of Hemlock and Lone Pine Way, and there was an awful lot of on-street parking that was done by the folks who were using the softball fields, because there wasn't really much other parking available. So doing a lot like this and getting the parking off the street, I think will probably help with neighborhood relations. And so I see that as a positive. I guess I do have a question about the stormwater pond that would be added there, and would it be deep enough that with the elementary school there and a youth soccer and lacrosse facility there, that we would want to have fencing or anything to make sure that we have a safe area there? Is that something that we would want to consider?
If you wish to respond to for our benefit and for those watching at home, if you could just state your name and address, we'd appreciate it, please.
Sure. My name is Hans Justison, JSD Professional Services, 161 Horizon Drive, Suite 101. We've been actively working with Verona staff. We haven't been able to connect with Darren yet, but to get the exact requirements, what we would be getting credit for the existing pond that is located on the site. My guess is that we're going to be able to get runoff rate control and TSS, but we may have to have a water quality basin for infiltration and thermal requirements. So we just wanted to be proactive and show a general area where we would have such a facility. This would not be a wet facility, and for water quality purposes, it would most likely only hold a foot of water at any given time during a larger rain event until it would discharge and infiltrate. So right now, until we can connect with staff and get the exact requirements for that, we just have that as a placeholder, but it wouldn't be, I don't see it as a hazard by any means.
Mr. Manley, please.
If I could ask a follow-up question,
Sure.
please. So at a previous meeting of the Plan Commission, we discussed drainage from the fields to the north. Does this plan continue that practice, or does this plan direct that stormwater to a different location?
We've been in active discussions with the developer for the Kettle Creek North subdivision, as well as their engineer, D'Onofrio Kotke. So we've actually been exchanging survey information and working on the final design details. So whether it discharges to the south or to the north, it'll be handled, but it hasn't been determined at this particular time. But everyone is aware of it, and we're working towards a resolution of it. It doesn't pose an issue at this point in time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Questions, comments, feedback? Mr. Linder, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there gonna be a, you was talking about a sewer stub from the road? Is there gonna be a sewer drain put in with the?
That is what
parking lot?
is proposed at this time. The developer for Kettle Creek North has agreed to put in a Y connection and stub it out to the right of way. And part of our proposed plans would be to extend that lateral as part of the parking lot improvements.
And then, since Mr. Sayer brought up the net, so the net stops at the pole, does the net need to go past the pole? People hit it just foul? Is it gonna be flying right in there? Just 'cause, just a,
So I can't
It's a
speak in
question.
direct feet, but we've been working with a vendor and the appropriate coaching staff on just the actual trajectory of the ball and the proposed landing area. So we did determine that we probably only need a net maybe 10 to 15 feet tall, set back anywhere from 5 to 10 feet from the fence. And the area that we show it in would be the closest proximity to the Hemlock right-of-way. As we move farther away from there, the chances of it getting farther beyond, I guess the risk of it becomes less and less as you're moving away from the critical point, the closest point to the Hemlock. So we feel that we've shown it in an appropriate location at this particular time.
so and then Mr. Sayer, you said basically you're recommending no lights as part of this project for the entire site when it comes back on the next step.
That's correct.
Okay. Then finally, I just want to add, I think this is a really, I like this idea a lot. I've been there plenty. I think street parking was all right, but this is a definite improvement and it'll make it for a really nice facility. So I applaud the school district for doing that. Thank you.
Other comments or feedback? Mr. Manley?
Just a question for staff. Can you remind me, Adam, what type of notification requirements we have now for this type of proposal in terms of folks in the neighborhood?
Mr. Sayer?
Sure, this is site plan only, so we'd have no notification at all as a part of this one.
Okay.
I mean, if the school district wanted to reach out, they could do that, and I think they were planning on at least reaching out to potentially the one house that's mostly impacted by this. And the developer, who's obviously building this to the east, is fully aware of it, and I think in general he's comfortable with this is kind of how it's laying out. He couldn't be here tonight, but I know he hasn't raised any issues with this plan.
Mr. Garrell?
Yeah, Dean Garrell, 407 West Whispering Pines Way, representing VASD tonight. I did meet with the landowners of that particular property that are immediately adjacent to that last Friday morning. They were appreciative of the plans, they liked the plans, and they were appreciative of the visit. They didn't see any issues at all with them. And I said we'd work with them probably in the springtime for the screening and the plantings around their property, and that we could do it however they wanted to have that done. So they were very appreciative of that,
Thank you.
and no objections.
That's great. I would just echo the other comments that were made. I think this is a good resolution to the issue that was brought up by some concerned folks, so thank you very much. Seeing no additional questions or comments or feedback, I know I looked again. It's just habit. Yeah. So no action this evening. We look forward to that coming back to us, so thank you. We are on agenda item number 6. Mr. Sayer?
Thank you. This is tonight discussion on proposed fencing for potential dog daycare center with an outdoor play area to be located on Lot 16 of the Verona Technology Park. On your screen is the parcel kind of in question here. If you recall, back in the summer of this year, back in June of 2016, or excuse me, I think it was June of 2016, we provided an initial review of a proposed dog daycare business to be located on this parcel. As part of that, we also did later on amend the zoning text amendment regarding the outdoor play areas for these types of facilities, and that was approved in 2016. The applicant who's looking at this facility would like to come back tonight and receive some feedback, and there'd be no action from the Plan Commission, but just they receive feedback on proposed fencing that they're looking at. Obviously, a facility like this has a lot of outdoor fencing, so this is a big issue for them. So before they go forward and engineer the site, they at least wanted to have feedback from the Plan Commission of, is this fencing acceptable or not? So the applicant in your packet did provide conceptual fencing, what they're looking for. The proposed fence would be 8 feet tall. It would be black, powder-coated chain link with slats in it. The owners have used similar fencing in the Fox Valley at their facility, including Menasha for 11.5 years and 6.5 years in Greenville. In all those locations, they've had no issues with this type of fencing, and that includes dogs chewing on it or ripping out the slats. So the applicant is here tonight. They're looking for that feedback. Staff, from a staff level standpoint, I think when the conversation started with the applicant, we were looking at a more decorative type of fencing. I think the challenge is trying to find something that works for the applicant, but then also functions with the animals as well, without putting a decorative fence up that basically has screening type material in it, which basically defeats the purpose of this. From my standpoint, I think the black fencing, while it's not decorative, it does fit with the color that you find elsewhere in the city. The Wisconsin Brewing Company has their black decorative fence across the street. My only comment on the slats would be to make sure that would be actually black. I think that's a better and cleaner look to it versus the brown itself. But I am comfortable with kind of the 8 foot tall chain link black fence with the black slats. I know the applicant's here tonight. If you have any questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. But like I said, they're looking for feedback tonight and just direction of what the Plan Commission kind of thinks about this.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. Questions, comments, feedback? My initial thoughts were that, I definitely prefer the black over the brown, but I think the applicant's talking to the black anyhow. The only other question I had is durability, and if you're using it at other facilities and you're not having any issue, then that takes care of that concern for mine, but I would definitely want to make sure that it's black. Other questions, comments, or if you have anything that you want to add, if you would?
I don't really have anything else to add, but we did, first of all, my name is Dave. I live at 5063 West Century Farm Boulevard in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm here on behalf of Wagsmore LLC want to bring the tail waggers to your town. We have not had any issues with the fencing. I've had a facility for 3 years, no problems with it as far as durability goes, and we're more than willing to use the black. We'd also be willing to do any kind of landscaping to make it a nicer appearance and that kind of a thing. Work with the city on, a plan that benefits both of us. So.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments, feedback? Mr. Linder, please.
So your intent would be to use this and then have like some of those bushes on the outside, like arborvitaes or something like that?
We could do bushes, berms, whatever we would, we'd work with you guys, would submit a plan, take a look at it, we could make improvements, talk about it. But arborvitaes, whatever would fit.
I like the idea of having bushes or something on the outside to break it up.
Yeah, and my facility's got that now, and the other ones do as well. So we'd be putting something there regardless. But if more extensive landscaping needs to be discussed because of the type of fencing we have, we're willing to explore that with you guys for sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
Yeah, thank you. Just black for sure, if that's the option.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
The only other thing I would maybe think of, what I was thinking initially, would be some kind of wood fence, but I'm sure that's quite a bit more money. I would assume so.
Like wood paneling?
Yeah.
I actually have wood paneling around my facility. The city of De Pere required me to have that on just cedar fencing. I have it on the outside of the chain link fence.
Oh. So
basically there's a chain link fence, and then the outside of that is the cedar fencing. We don't want to have the cedar because dogs will chew on that.
Gotcha.
If they can, they'll scratch at it. Splinters get in there and that kind of a thing. But we could put it up
Okay.
on the outside to make it look You know, that'd be a discussion we'd be more than willing to have. And it certainly isn't something that's unheard of, 'cause like I said, I have it on my facility.
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
Well, with that comment, I guess I'm pretty okay with just using this with some bushes and stuff outside it,
Okay.
personally.
Any other feedback, comments, questions? I'm not seeing any, so we look forward to you coming back in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice evening.
Reports and comments from Planning Department. Mr. Sarah, please.
The only comment I have is that the November Plan Commission meeting has been moved to November 9th due to the presidential elections. So that's I think it's the second Wednesday of the month. So if you wouldn't mind just marking your calendars accordingly, I would appreciate that. And if you have any issues making it, I guess let me know as soon as you can.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any comments or reports on the Plan Commissioners? Not seeing any. The only thing before us is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Turk, seconded by Mr. Linder. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.